Hey everybody, I am with one of my new friends that I've just created in the last 2 weeks. Her name is LindaWhited. She is a career coach, specifically working with young professionals and at this point, old professionals in the sports world. Linda, take it away. Tell us more about you. Tell us about what your goals are, your visions. We want to know about you.
Okay. I feel called to help people make confident career decisions. So I created my company, Time to Be Career Savvy. My background is supporting higher education. So undergrads, graduate students, all getting that extra next credential that hopefully propels them into something that is more meaningful for them. So I just really care about helping people articulate what is their reason for doing work, what's important to them, and then helping them find that right spot within the working world. And I do that a lot through one-on-one coaching, but also some great resources that we'll point you to later on, like through my website and whatnot. But I really just want people to feel confident in what they're about to do. And because that's how I'm making a difference in the world is like helping other people to do whatever it is that they do and be like free to do it. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Oh, I think that's great. You know, you actually bring a very different angle to a lot of these interviews that I've done and shown. My focus in the past, or for a couple others, have been okay, I've lost my job or I've been furloughed because of COVID. You bring an angle of okay, these are some young college students or newly graduated college students that are specifically trying to figure out what their career path is. And I think during this time right now, they're at some of the biggest advantage because they can completely be molded to the new cultures and so forth. What are some of the concerns that you may be hearing from some of your younger clients, from younger individuals that you've worked with? And what are some of the tips that you're offering them?
I think one of the big ones is just the uncertainty. Like, are people hiring? Are they not hiring? How's it different? How can I handle everything virtually? And so, just to kind of put them at ease that everyone is in this boat of a global pandemic, that we're all dealing with this situation. I was talking to a class of grad students just last night, mentioning, ways to sort of humanize your online communication. So we've always had email, right? But now with everybody being on their computer so much, looking for ways to extend empathy, like you are probably homeschooling people and maybe your bandwidth is limited. I'm, in the midst of this and still want to reach out to you for whatever reason. Maybe I found you on LinkedIn and it looks like what you do is something that I'm interested in learning more about. So could we talk more? And then I think anytime you are the job seeker, you need to be as proactive as possible. So you're the one most motivated to find that new position. So you should have a schedule of, hey, I emailed them on Tuesday the 5th. I'm going to pay attention. And if I haven't heard back from them within a week or so, I'm going to do another reach out and maybe try a different method. If I've reached out to them on Instagram, maybe I'm going to try LinkedIn or look up their email address, and I always go for being persistent, not pushy. But you really are in the driver's seat for your career when you're the job seeker, and so it really does fall on you with your own organization, your own kind of just tracking of who am I talking to, and your own emphasis on the relationships more than, well, I've done 10 applications today, so certainly something's going to come, because that will start to feel like the black hole of just applying to this like dark space and no one's writing you back. And you kind of have to flip the switch and focus on your relationships and who can you be talking to and making that authentic connection with.
I think the key word is authentic.
Mm-hmm.
I think just from working with some young professionals when I was with the Sharks, there are some individuals that are always they think that they need to portray themselves a certain way and that they need to talk very quickly and which a lot of that's nerves, but at the same time to then take the next step and say, okay, I need to learn everything I can learn about everything and anything there is to do with this business. Teach me, let me be a sponge. And I think those individuals always, no matter what level you're at, are always the ones that employers prefer, as well as empowered to teach them more and to help them grow as individuals. So I think you're absolutely right. And the key is too is being persistent, not pushy. because none of us, think back to when you go to buy a car or you go to buy anything in general, you don't want the pushy salesperson. You want the person that understands the product, that knows everything that's going on. And it's the same thing with the job world and seeking a way to get into the sports industry. Remember, a lot of these hiring managers are literally dealing with thousands of applicants that all look the same. So what is it that you do to make yourself stand out, make yourself look a little bit different, and become more of a human individual that they want to know and they want to meet? Something that has been new to our industry, because of the pandemic, because of COVID, is that we're seeing a lot of people, and I'm talking to a lot of people that have had the same career for 10 years or more, and they're now finding themselves unemployed. They don't know what to do simply because it's been over a decade since they've written resumes, since they've career shopped, and so forth. What are some strategic tips that you would offer them? And then feel free to share some of your website also, because I know as a coach, you also have a set of guidelines that help them to be better versions of themselves and how to re-navigate these uncharted waters.
Yeah, sure. So I think two pieces that are on my website, and I'll certainly make sure we have the links to them. I have a guide on articulating your worth. So, really taking stock of those 10 years that you've been an athlete and elaborating just in a pre writing exercise of like, what skills did I gain? What unique things happened during that time? How did I add value to my team? If something crazy happened, like COVID, how did I handle it? How did I show certain skills that are really employable, like adaptability, flexibility, innovation, creative problem solving? And so having some knowledge of your own skills and your own interests, I think, is really important. And then the other pieces of any good career decision are also taking stock of what your values are. So people that go into professional athletics or even just the industry, they value some of the same things, right? So they're going to care about setting their goals and reaching for them, right? That sort of competitiveness. And so how do you use that in the career search, right? So that maybe more of that persistent, not pushy, but really owning the career and thinking of your job search as that goal. Like if you wanted to increase your time of running a mile, you're going to do certain things in order to do that. And so you should follow best practices for job searching, which I talk a lot about individually, and I will be creating some additional resources around the job search in particular. But the other guide that I have right now is just how do you define what meaningful work is for you? And by the end of that, it's got some different prompts where you're sort of filling it in and choosing some adjectives and things like that. So it's very practical. And at the end of it is really a statement that I would recommend putting into a cover letter or putting into an email introduction about yourself or putting on your about part of your LinkedIn profile, because you can sort of say, this is what meaningful work is to me. And then I think the only thing I'll add to that is you have to know about yourself, but then you really just need to look for fit, right? So like every sports team has their own personality quirks, and so do you. And so you're really trying to find where is the overlap. And if you're transitioning out of athletics into a totally different industry for whatever reason, again, you're looking for where are those overlaps. Maybe it is personality wise or some of your key values that you most care about. So being able to articulate those things for yourself and then figuring out the mechanism or vehicle to share it with the world is really a lot of what needs to happen to make your job search shorter, frankly.
I was talking to, or I was not talking, excuse me, I was listening to a podcast from our friends over at Front Office Features. And one of the things that the guys there had suggested was to set yourself apart, create an actual 30-second, 1-minute video, who you are, what you are, essentially like using that statement that you just said, this is what I did, this is my elevator pitch, and this is why I'm amazing. So, and don't be afraid to say what you are and how you are, because it'll give them a better vision and an idea of who you are. Because a piece of paper that's black and white, quite frankly, doesn't tell you enough about the individual that's in front of you. Even if you wrote a Charles Dickens level novel on your resume, it's got to be something that sets you apart. But I think some of the key things that you've said are knowing your values, but also knowing your value as an employee, because there are several people out there that are just the people that like to go with the flow, like to be in the middle of the pack, and like to just be the workers and so forth. Then you have a couple that are going to rise above, that go above and beyond, that sometimes ask forgiveness rather than permission, but then end up getting the job done. So I think you're absolutely right for those of us to take a look on your website, and also to take those moments to figure out and assess who you are, because we have time right now to do that. I think that's something that's beautiful that we've all received during this pandemic, is a little bit of time to slow down and think of who we are and what we can do. That being said, what's something that you've done during COVID that's a little bit different than you've never done before?
Mm. I took advantage of the online space. Like I just created this LinkedIn email challenge, because I talk about LinkedIn a lot, but I pulled the trigger to sort of build my own email list. So just stretching my wings, I think, into the entrepreneurial space is what I've done during this time. I also power washed everything I could. I think that was like instant gratifying, and it was outside, and it just like helped me to manage, everything else that is not manageable right now.
That's hilarious. That's awesome. I know I think I drove my husband crazy. If I painted one more item or room in our house, I think he would have he told me to stop for a minute. But no, I think that's fantastic. And like I said, we're going to go ahead and post all of these links that you had within the blog that I write as well. And they will also be available on our resources page. So if there's any final thought that you'd love to leave everybody with, I would love to hear it, Miss Linda.
I think know your interests, your values, and your skills, and know them in a way that does articulate your value to that most important viewer for you, which maybe is through LinkedIn or maybe on your resume. Who is looking at it, and what do you want them to most know? Which means you are going to tailor your materials in your job search. You are going to tell slightly different stories about your own experience based on who it is that you're telling. So more of that like high context as opposed to low context. And really thinking about that. And my final thought, I guess, is if there is a piece to your own story that you're just unsure of, or you're not sure how to articulate like what you're good at, I would start with the Clifton Strengths Finder assessment. I love it. I think knowing your top 5 and what areas that you can improve on based on what those are, be more of who you already are and less of trying to fit into the mold of somebody else. And you will find where that fit is. The clearer you are on what you offer, the shorter, that job search would be.
Oh, I think that's amazing. We've talked about the DISC assessment, and I always forget about the Clifton. Everything has changed since the old school Myers-Briggs, when everybody's like INFP, ENFJ, all of that. So being able to understand and articulate, and the cool thing about the Clifton Strengths is every time you take it, it's a little bit different, because it's based on your mood, it's based on your current experiences and what's going on, but you also get to really do some inner deep diving on who you are as an individual. So I think that's a beautiful thing, and I strongly recommend anybody that's still watching to do that as well. Thank you so much, Linda. We appreciate your time.
You're welcome.